I speak with award-winning real estate and commercial photographer David Koch, discussing commercial versus real estate photography. Today, on episode 16 of Real Estate Photography Unlocked.
I'm just trying to get mine, but these agents got me losing my mind. Whatever happened to the good times? Man, forget about it. It's showtime. Let me show you how to get some rest, how to make millions, how to be your best. This is shout out to the REPs, to the shooters, producers, and the newbies. Welcome to our podcast. I'm your rep MC. We're here every week talking real estate photography.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 16 of Real Estate Photography Unlocked. It's vacant, go whenever. Today, we have a very special guest, and I'll allow him to give all of his accolades right now. Please welcome David Koch. How are you doing today, David?
I'm doing great, Jonathan. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really happy that the podcast is going so well. We've got so many people listening, and we've had some great guests on that are really helping the industry. And you specifically, I think, have a very unique angle in regards to being able to do real estate photography and commercial. So we're going to learn all about that today. But we also have a few other things you want to talk about, and I want to help you out with. First of all, for those of us who don't know who you are, could you introduce yourself, some of the things you've kind of accomplished in your career? You're not a young guy. You're a veteran. You've been around for a while. You've been doing photography for a lot longer than most of us. So it's. I feel like I'm speaking to a wise elder here. So thank you for coming on.
Oh, I'm so happy, like I said, to be here. And I just, one thing I've always felt is so many people help me to get to where I am. And so to me, it's all about giving back now and helping other people to get there also. So, doing things like this, and I'll be speaking to a high school group next week about photography. To me, it's all about sharing and giving back and the one thing about photography is if I win, that doesn't mean that you lose. We can both win and we can both raise each other up. So, podcasts are wonderful for that.
Well, thank you. I know that sometimes people can say I'm a little bit harsh on guests, but I do try to be as encouraging as possible to go to both extremes. So really happy to have you on. Can you tell us a little bit about your career and what you've accomplished? Apparently, you've rubbed shoulders with some celebrities. You've been on set for some things, and you're based out of Utah now. But were you based out of LA before?
I grew up in LA, yeah.
Okay.
And when I went to college, I went to Cal State Northridge, and it really was a horrible program. At least. And, we had black and white TVs, black and white cameras. And, when we made a film, it was on Super 8. And in the middle of my junior year, I had the opportunity to go work at the American Film Institute. They're called AFI. A lot of people have heard of, AFI's top 100 such and such films or something like that. They also have a postgraduate school where they teach up-and-coming people how to make films. And so I had the opportunity to work with Christopher Lloyd on a film. And it was post-Taxi, but prior to Back to the Future.
Okay.
And Jennifer Jason Leigh on a film out in 29 Palms. And unfortunately, none of these are listed in IMDb. But, from there, I learned that I like to work by myself. I like to, and in a film, as fun as it is, you're a cog in a machine, and there's so many other people just in the camera department alone. And I veered off into television news where I was the cameraman and the editor. And it turns out you also become the producer and the director, and you work with a reporter or something like that. And I didn't realize it at the time, but this was an incredible training ground for real estate photography because we do the same thing. We have to produce that shoot. We have to direct it. We have to edit it. And the other thing that I think is really important is in both instances, you have to come back with quality product. You know, you have to perform. And I think that's an invaluable lesson from TV news to this. The one story I think I wanted to tell you about, because it's so much fun. When I moved to Salt Lake, we had a news anchor named Nick Clooney, who was just a wonderful man and one of the smartest people I ever knew. Or he's still alive, so I'm going to say bad things.
Right. We're only talking about bad things after they're dead, right?
Yeah. No. His whole family, just wonderful people. They really are. But he always felt guilty because he got paid an awful lot, and we were building the very first Fox News station. So it was all very experimental, and we weren't paid very well. So he would take us out every weekend for drinks and dinner and stuff. And when his son would come to town, he would give me and the other photographers $100 and say, "Take my son out, show him a good time. He doesn't want to hang out with Nina and I," and we would. And that son's name is George Clooney.
George Clooney, like Batman.
As in, that.
Yeah, okay.
And just, again, wonderful guy, just salt to the earth and super smart and just a really nice guy. I wish I could call him up today and say hi, but
yeah, I'm sure.
Well,
and a few people in the way right there.
Yeah.
Well, cool. That's a really cool experience. So he got his bravado and his way with women. He learned that from you, I'm guessing.
You know, it's really funny. We were born like about 2 months apart, and we're both the same height. And, you know, I like to say he got the money and I got the looks, but I don't know. But just really nice,
cool,
very genuine.
All right, cool. And then, so you got into photography, and what year did you get into photography? Was this back? Yeah, I mean, in real estate photography specifically, when did you start pursuing that career? Was it back when you just needed one listing photo for the front of the house, or?
It was a little after that. It was in the digital age.
Okay.
But boy, I had to do math now. 15 years ago.
Okay. Again.
And it was an occasional thing I was doing on the side, and I just kind of grew into it. I think I really learned a lot from like Rich Baum and, you know, those sorts of things. And I think the fact that we all have YouTube University right there to help us along, it is so valuable for helping anybody get to where they want to be in the business.
Okay. Now, so you got into this just a few years before I did, and it seems like there's not many people who predate real estate photography before that, purely because real estate photography didn't come to fruition before that time. I think I'm going to do a video deep diving into the history of real estate photography. I think that'd be really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
But you got into it, and then you've received some awards for your work as well. This includes PFRE awards, and if you guys don't know what PFRE is, what it was called before it's PMRE, which is a conference in Las Vegas. Is that correct?
It's sort of correct. My understanding is Brandon split off of PFRE, and the first year it was still called PFRE in Vegas. My understanding is they turned into two separate companies. And PFRE remains everything but the Las Vegas convention, and then Brandon is the PMRE in Vegas, and they changed the name so that there is that differentiation.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad, and sorry for not knowing that.
No.
All right, well, cool. So, how does one even get awarded at the PFRE? You know, first of all, what were your awards? And is it okay if you share a website so people listening can look at some of your work?
Sure, yeah. I'm always happy to share my work.
Yes.
All photography. Here, look, I shot this.
Right.
Do you drive around town with your wife and go, "Oh, that building, I did that one"?
Well, you're a little bit more into commercial and architecture than I am, I do a lot of homes. So a lot of the homes that I shoot, they're not too much to brag about, but yeah, I definitely do the thing like, hey, I shot that house and that house and that house if we are driving through a neighborhood. But nowadays, since I have a team, I probably only shoot like 15 or 20% of our listings. And a lot of the listings we shoot, I don't even recognize anymore. So sometimes I get this odd feeling when I'm going through a neighborhood, like I know my team has shot most of this neighborhood, but I haven't done it myself, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. But yeah, I know how you're feeling, what you're talking about. What's your website so we can look at that with everybody?
photoslc.com. And that's
okay.
And that's the state site.
And you do real estate, but you also do commercial as well. Yeah. Do you have a separate site for commercial?
I sure do. And that is one thing I did want to touch on. I think as people progress from real estate to commercial, I definitely think one of the key things to do is to have a separate website for commercial. I think it's really important that you don't mix the two and that you keep the two separate. So
are you saying there's a difference between real estate photography and commercial and architecture?
For sure, yeah.
Okay, because some get really confused on that. And they don't know that there's a difference. And there definitely is. I would agree with you. And I would say they are two entirely different industries completely. It's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like doing family photos versus doing headshots. It's just not the same. And you may think, oh, well, you're shooting people and, you're getting together and making sure everyone looks good. Right. But the purpose of the images, the way you're capturing the images, the posing, the lighting, all of the editing, the entire way you approach the image is completely different. The way you charge it is completely different.
Yeah.
They're different industries. It's the same thing with real estate photography and commercial. And today, I really want to talk all about this. But the first thing you say is you should have separate websites. So here's real estate website is photoslc.com. That's slc.com.
Salt Lake City.
Okay, Salt Lake City. And then we have your commercial site, which would be
Commercial Photography Utah.
Okay.
Or is it Commercial Photo Utah? You know what? I got to look it up too.
No, it's Commercial Photography Utah. I researched it up before and I have it auto completed for me.
Yeah.
Commercialphotographyutah.com. And first of all, Utah is a fantastic market to be in. So congratulations. It's a beautiful area. And if you guys look at his work, it is just gorgeous. I mean, you have an incredible eye. Your processing is obviously fantastic. And the amount of variety of work you're doing, I'm seeing stadiums, I'm seeing residential homes, I'm seeing commercial buildings, I'm seeing exteriors, interiors, a beautiful shot of you shooting straight up a tower. This is just incredible work. So if you guys want to truly appreciate who we have on the podcast today, you want to go check out his website. So once again, that's Photo SLC, that's for saltlakecity.com, and then commercialphotographyutah.com. All right, so let's talk about, you kind of brushed in there how you got into real estate, and then you were mentioning how people should, as they grow and potentially get into commercial, there's a phase that you feel like they should follow, a progression. Right. Can you talk about that? Like, should people just jump straight into commercial or real estate photography? Should they decide who they are? Or do you recommend starting one first and then working into the other? Or maybe not even doing both and only doing one?
Well, first off, I think real estate photography really is the path into commercial.
Okay.
Because it's such a great, you can make your mistakes. On top of which, one of the things I did all the time was and I learned this from TV, you make sure you're covered. You CYA, you get the shot, then you experiment, then you try and push yourself and do more. And when it works, put it up, show people. But another point I wanted to make out is my path may not necessarily be the path for everyone else. You mentioned that you have a whole crew of people. I work alone. And, I think it's really important I think one of the key elements is that you have to find your path, not my path, not Jonathan's path, not anybody else's path. And my progression was just very gradually. I would get a phone call and say, can you shoot a storage unit or, a storage lot? And then, can you shoot this? Can you shoot that? And then all of a sudden I add portfolio of basic commercial stuff. And then, one day I'd be shooting maybe a hotel, and then, 2 weeks. It doesn't happen overnight either. It's, once a month you'll get a shot like that.
Yeah.
And,
you're talking commercial specific, right?
Yeah. Commercial interspersed with real estate.
Right.
And so, you just go in, you try and do the best job that you can. And after a while, when you start getting 2, 3, 4 of those shoots a month, that's when I'd start looking at building that separate site, because all of a sudden you'll have the portfolio to build it from, and you'll have the experience to build it from. It's just really important that you not try and leapfrog or jump ahead. The patience is, I think, the key, because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And take the time to learn it, and importantly, listen to the clients and find out what they need, and, ask them what their purpose in the photography is. If you're selling something, that's different than if you're advertising the storage unit, and the pictures you should put together are completely different. And all of those are completely different. Back to your point, all of those are completely different than real estate. Real estate, you're trying to show the space.
Yeah.
Well, I think in commercial, regardless of the type of commercial, you're trying to idealize the space.
And what do you mean by that, idealize?
Well, you know what a good halfway point is Airbnb photography. I think we all do that. And one thing in my mindset when I shoot those is I want to make this a place people want to see themselves. You're on vacation and you don't want the cares of the average world, the daily world, in that scene.
Oh.
So to that extent, I don't show like dishes, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's ordinary. Don't show trash cans. You want to show something that idealizes the space and makes it, beautiful and a place that you want to be. And to that end, and you can do this at Airbnb, I'll even take out the wall switches,
Or,
the more and more you get into heavy commercial, the more and more you start seeing distractions in the image, like fire extinguishers or in the ceiling. And the more and more you want to remove those, because you want the space to talk, not you want the idealized space to talk.
Right. And the way I would put it is, lots of times you have an inner conflict as a photographer. When you're doing real estate photography, for example, it's like, artistically, creatively, this isn't a great shot, but we need to show, for example, that there's a sunroom there, right? So you'll take a shot, and it's really for documentary purpose, so that a buyer can understand what they're looking at. But if I was approaching some of those shots from artistic, it's really establishing a mood of the home. So lots of times you could take just details of, look at these wonderful countertops and how they blend in so well with the tile. And then you actually just completely break all the rules of real estate photography. Get your shot up way high, you point it right back down so you can capture, just the materials that the home is made out of. You don't see too many shots like that in real estate photography, but in commercial and architecture, you really do. And you guys can see the difference plainly in his 2 websites of the creativity that he puts in in his commercial work is a lot more, how would you put it? You take a lot more creative license in your architecture than you do your residential. And your residential is still very well done, but you really take more of freedom, if you will, in what you're doing. So let's talk a little bit more about some specifics here. When you are approaching a real estate shoot versus a commercial shoot, what are some of the big differences that we can quantify that are less subjective and more quantifiable? So this would include things like how you're pricing the home, how much time you're taking on site. Is there a big difference in year? What does licensing look like? Okay, and I don't want to just flood you with that question, but let's start with when you're taking a real estate photography shoot versus a commercial shoot. What gear are you bringing with you, and how much effort and time are you thinking you're going to be putting on site?
I would just real quick, the time-wise, double to trip easily.
Yeah. Okay.
But I will, with MLS or real estate, you're going to end up with a 2,000 pixel wide image. So don't crazy with a camera. I use all Nikon mirrorless. And I keep all my cameras in the car because 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So, you always want.
Right.
But my day.
I haven't heard that in a while, but it is one. I've heard that. That was something my commercial photographer that I learned under, Jeff Ember, he said that, and I haven't heard that since him. So it's very cool that I'm hearing that from you, man. That it's giving me some nostalgic. Took me right back to 2009 there. All right, sorry, continue.
Yeah. Well, it's true. If anything goes bad, getting back to the TV news photography, you could not come back and say, oh, I didn't get the shot, or you didn't have a job. And that's how I, especially commercial, you're charging so much more. The expectations are so much higher that, it's incumbent on you to be super professional.
Right.
That's the first thing. I go in, I do not shoot commercial in shorts. I don't care how hot it is. I think you need to show a professional attitude. You need to go in and have a nice shirt on. You need to be dressed well. The difference in cameras, I will shoot the Z6 at medium raw for real estate because, like I said, we're ending up with a 2,000 pixel image max. I jump up to the Z7 II for all my commercial. And, I will generally use this. I'm sorry. Oh,
I haven't said anything.
Yeah. I will generally use the same set of gear. I use 2 or 3 AD200s with the Magmod sphere on top because
that's lighting for everybody. Yeah, right.
It's outside. It's up in the car.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. But I use the same tripod for both. I use a Really Right Stuff with an Arca Swiss head. And it's just good to be used to the same set of gear all the time, I think. The Z6 II and the Z7 II have the same exact menu system. So it's almost like using the same exact camera, but you're getting double the pixels. 48 or 49 megapixels.
Right.
And then, when I do the walkthrough, you're doing 20 to 30 images on a real estate. And typically you're going to do 5 to 10 on a commercial shoot. And a commercial shoot, I will at least talk to the person before I go out, but I will generally try and walk the scene with them a day or two prior, so that we're pre-editing in our heads what are the best shots,
right,
and shoot those, because you're going to take 20 to 30 minutes generally setting up one of those shots, whereas you just catch Ann on MLS, So you want to make sure that all your time is well spent on site. And then, Wayne Capelli, right?
Yes, the name is familiar. Forgive me if I don't know him personally. I've kind of been flying under the radar for many years.
Okay. Well, Wayne is a big proponent of always knowing where the sun is. And he taught me to track the sun tracker app on my phone so that you know when the sun's going to be coming in, and you can plan your shoot so that you've got the best sunlight, and a lot of times that's how I plan out the shoot, is these rooms will get the light in the morning, these will get it in the afternoon, and working that out that way. So I think there's a lot less spontaneity, and there's a lot more planning that goes into commercial. And one of the things also I recommend is people edit their own things. You may not final edit, and you may still send it to Vietnam or whatever, but the more and more you know about what you can and cannot get away with, and the more and you know about how you can hide things and, things like that, the better your final images are going to be. Shooting for editing.
Yeah, and I will step in and agree with you there, and also give my own take on that as well. I talk to a lot of people the importance of outsourcing, just because of sustainability and making sure that you guys aren't burning yourselves out, but also it kind of puts a limit on your perfectionistic tendencies. So it keeps that under control, and just enables you guys to turn things around fast. Also, not all of us are great editors, but I always encourage people to learn how to edit. Don't just default to outsourcing. And the reason is, I've always said, because it makes you a better shooter.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If you're constantly having to review your images, it is the best way to teach you be a better photographer, because you recognize, I missed that. And you start seeing things better with your eye. And as he is saying, it helps you understand the entire process much better. I've always found that people who don't know how to edit deliver images that make it very difficult on the editor to get a decent shot. But if you're a good shooter and you're getting the perfect images to your editor, the editor is going to appreciate that, and it's going to cause them less time, but also it'll probably save you money because they'll charge you less, just because they're happy to work with you.
And I always ask my editor too, was there anything where I screwed you up? What always, from your clients to your editor to other people, always ask for feedback.
Yeah.
The more it hurts you, the more you go, I don't want to hear that. The more important it is to listen to. All of that. If somebody just says, "Oh, it's a great picture," and blows smoke up your butt, it doesn't help you. But when somebody says something that kind of cuts you and you go, "Oh man," that's stuff you need to listen to.
And you really want to encourage your clients to, you don't want to try to create problems where there is none, but you do want to encourage your clients to be comfortable communicating with you, because if they don't feel comfortable communicating with you, they will just switch photographers.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier for them to just communicate rather than having to go through the whole process of finding another photographer and then getting to the end and finding out they're actually worse than you are. So, if they just don't like orchids in their images because orchids are so cliche, try to get that out of them, right? So there's all sorts of things also when communicating with a client that it will be a tectonic shift in the way you were thinking about what they wanted. For example, I can't tell you how many times when I was doing headshots for people and I was worried about the lighting and the environment, and someone's like, "Oh, I really don't like my earrings." It's like, "Oh, I didn't even think about what you were wearing because it's not my responsibility." But it makes you understand your client a little bit better so that you can get the shot that you need, but also understand, what they're thinking about, because everyone is a little bit self-centered and they are thinking about themselves. Great stuff, David.
One of the funnest shoots for me is, and this gets right to the core of what you said, is shoots for interior designers or at hotels where you're working with the marketing director or something like that, and you're tethering And, you and I are sitting there making sure those walls are parallel and the color is right and all that. And they're looking at that Kleenex box and is it tilted just right?
Yeah.
They're coming at here, you're coming at it from here.
Yeah.
And if you spend time and listen real close to, an interior designer or a marketing director or something like that, you're going to learn so much more about setting up your own shots when you're alone. And, to me, that's just invaluable. I was doing the montage and I had their corporate marketing director in, and she was showing me how to fold towels to make them look plumper.
Oh.
And you don't think I was like taking notes,
right?
Like that. And also back to your other point, we got to one room and it was winter and the balcony was covered with snow and maintenance hadn't come and cleared the snow. And, a lot of people think, oh, what we do, we push a button, we take a picture, we're done. And I like to tell people, no, our job is 95% problem solving and 5% taking the picture.
Yeah. A lot of the shot is taken before you hit the shutter.
Yeah. Well, what we did on that balcony, I got out there with the corporate marketing director with ice buckets, that you get in each of your hotel rooms.
Yeah.
We were shoveling the snow off with those, just having the greatest time. And to me, that's the kind of bonding that you make with your clients that is going to get you called back and get you additional jobs. I've been back to Montage 4 times now for different things. And I think that has a lot to do with it, that I wasn't prima donna. You set up a room and tell me when you're ready. I got in there, I did the work, and we were a team. And so key.
Now, this sounds like a lot of work for real estate photographers. Let's talk about why it's worth doing commercial photography, or is it worth it when you take into consideration all the extra work in planning? So we've mentioned several things, including going out to shoots the day before. That's more time on our part. This involves working with a lot more people, and that's people management. For a lot of us creatives, it is difficult to get along with people sometimes, especially some of the people I've worked with. I've said I don't really do commercial in architecture. That's not completely true. I've done plenty, but I wouldn't call myself an expert in it. And one of the things I don't love for me when I'm doing bigger jobs like this is because sometimes the creative directors or the marketing directors aren't very qualified. Sometimes they are. Sometimes it's just like the spouse of the person who owns the business. And those are the worst people to work with, because they don't know really what they want. They're eager to prove themselves. So they're being extra difficult to work with, frankly. And the advice they give is exactly bad. And you have to somehow convince them to do the right thing without telling them that they're wrong. Anyway, it is a lot of extra work.
Well, the trick is to think the good idea was their idea.
Yeah, well, I'm not very good at that. I've said before, I'm not very good with people, so that's why I shoot houses. But is the price worth the effort? Let's talk about pricing. How much more money can you make on a real estate photography, or a commercial shoot, than a real estate photography shoot? And how does licensing work into that as well? Does this industry actually respect licensing, and how do you approach that? Man, another really thing, I do agree with you that you should do real estate photography before you do commercial, just because you need to learn some business 101 before you get into commercial, because that's going to be 300 level expertise when it comes to business and negotiating. But anyway, I will stop talking so we can learn pricing, licensing, real estate photography, commercial. Okay. What do we got?
Well, it's funny. I had this exact conversation with Becky and Ashley from, I think, Medford, Oregon, Eugene, Oregon. Yes. And we were talking a lot about that. And really, I think the key thing to remember is real estate photography is not commercial photography. And you need to separate the two, not just in style and how you approach it, but your pricing and I think ultimately how you bill it. And typically what we are doing in MLS is, a 2,400 square foot house, I'm going to charge this much. Oh, a Twilight, I'm going to add that much. In commercial, that goes way out the window. Next week, I'm going to New York and I'm shooting a couple of planes for a client out there. And, the interior of a plane is, 40 square feet. And, it just wouldn't do to charge based on 40 square feet.
Right.
With commercial, we charge typically half day or full day or a photographer fee. And that's just to get me in the door. That's just to have me come out and put my tripod there. Then what I do is I charge a per image fee after that covers the licensing and the editing for that picture. And that could be, the photographer fee right now, I'm charging about $1,200 just to walk the door. And then $100 to $250, sometimes even more, depending on the licensing that they want. And that number can vary based on that licensing. One of the big things with MLS is, now people are trying to get unlimited licensing or in perpetuity licensing. That's fine. Just charge for it, and just add it on to the licensing. So that's where I come from. Licensing and pricing is basically pricing the job out. And then...
just, sorry, I don't mean to cut in here,
No.
but this is not just where he comes from, people. This is industry standard pricing. This is how photography used to be done and continue to be done and is still done in, top of the market stuff purely from people who know what they're doing. And the reason is because the federal law of the United States, copyright, requires that creatives, no matter who's creating the intellectual property, whether it's photos or music, must be compensated for the use of their intellectual property. So the way it's structured here, I mean, it's one of the reasons why you can't just go buy a Beatles CD and use it in your movie, right? You have to pay for its use. So the problem that a lot of people, just kind of, that's hogwash, that's nonsense, is because there's a lot of amateurs who don't know the law at all, but also don't know how to stick up for themselves. But there's plenty of industries who recognize this and are happy to pay for it. So, I mean, and I'll just add this in real quick. One of the commercial photographers I've worked for in the past, over a decade ago, would regularly charge up to $2,000 or as much as $10,000 for a single image. And you may think, oh, that's robbery. That's nonsense. And I thought that as well, and kind of asked him, like, man, aren't you kind of robbing these guys blind for that? He said, Jonathan, when we negotiated this in the pricing, I asked them how many times this image needed to be reproduced. And it was being reproduced over 500,000 times across the United States in magazines, billboards, and otherwise. The amount of money they've spent on advertising space is in the tens of millions.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, $10,000 for the image ain't nothing.
No.
All right.
I've heard a rule of thumb that whatever the ad buy is, if you're shooting an ad, and this is way rarefied, way beyond what I am doing.
Right.
This is Coca-Cola coming to you and saying we need an image of a Coke bottle in the snow with a polar bear. And if whatever their ad buy is, your fee should be 10%. So, but that's way beyond where I'm at. I'm still so
right. Well, still, you are charging per image, and I do that as well sometimes. But let's talk about, so you do about a $1,200, just, they used to call it sitting fee, for example, in portraits.
Yeah.
But a $1,200 photography fee for you just even coming in and shooting.
Yeah.
And then, $250 or more, depending on the license. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you go about asking about licensing with them? And what realistically type of kickback do you get? Because there are a lot of inexperienced marketing teams who don't understand licensing just because they've given themselves the title of marketing, but they've never actually gone to school or business to understand, what marketing costs.
Well, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble here.
Okay, no, please move.
In my opinion, if you're doing something local from a mom and pop place up the street or something like that, all this goes out the window. They don't have a $10,000 budget for this or that. And I would say, in my opinion, and this is what I told Becky and Ashley yesterday, if it's a local company and just something, and you're helping out, just charge the fee, 600, 800, whatever to shoot that, and then just walk away and let them use it. It's not worth your hassle or their hassle to come back yearly and redo it and all that.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And something I will, just step in and get on is the use case of the images justifies that.
Way smaller.
Way smaller. Yeah. So you are being consistent. When you were just shooting for mom and pop, frankly, who may never even get to the point of publishing it to their website. Yeah. Like, the images you take for them may very well never leave their hard drive.
Yeah.
Even though they paid for them. I've seen that happen plenty. So the use case difference between the two people is titanic. It's big. So the pricing should reflect that as well.
Yeah, I've forgotten because, Photo Quote Pro is kind of the official how you figure out the licensing costs of anything for different uses. And the numbers on that are astronomical. I wish I was getting paid at that level, but I'm just, I'm not shooting at that level, so I don't think I can.
Maybe you are being a little bit humble there, a little bit insecure, dude. Your photos are fantastic. Like, you're award winning.
Yeah.
Like, you do good work.
I've seen this come back. Yeah. I think the numbers sometimes are a little above what, you know what? That's another very, very key thing. If you're asking $10,000 for an image and you don't believe that image is worth $10,000, your clients are going to know that too. You have to charge an amount that you feel is fair and that you can back up and that you sincerely believe in. And if I just sold a few images to an apartment building I shot for the interior designer. And I offered the images when I shot it to the apartment building, and they said no. And now 2 years later, they came back and wanted them, and I get $375 an image from them for that. And I just bought the new Max, the studio that just came out, and so these things come back years later, and you make money on them too. So that's a positive thing. One of the things I wanted to mention, and we talked about this earlier, is how do you know how to license it? How do you know what questions to ask about licensing? And then how do you write your license? And that's nothing we deal with. Well, you deal with once in real estate photography. It should be, all your licensing should be covered in your terms of service. And it should be like 1 year or until the property sells, something like that.
Well, and you should also very much have a different license for your commercial work and your real estate work. Yeah. No question there, because I will include the licensing in the pricing of my real estate, and I don't really deal with licensing for real estate. I just include it in the public service. It's there. But my commercial licensing is going to be different. Right.
Yeah. I use a program called BlinkBit, and it's, I think, $22 a month or something like that. And it will walk you through building that license. It has a drop down for duration. It has a drop down for, is it local, semi-regional, national? And while it won't price it like a Photo Quote will, it will at least cover all the different parts of licensing that need to be covered. And then it'll write a complete license and put that into the quote that you ultimately send to the client. And you can also itemize it. Dang, I should have that up. Where it here? Okay, here's the quote for next week's going to New York. We're shooting 2 Grand Caravans in Long Island, and we've got photographer fee, an add-on video fee because we're shooting video, and then the post-production and licensing fee. So that's just photographer bit. Then I've got airfare, hotels, car rental, and a per diem because I charge $115 per day for food while I'm out of town.
Right.
That's $345, 3 days. So, and then it's got the terms right here, and it limits, let's see, this license shall be valid in perpetuity. So that's worked into the license and into the
right.
From the date of final payment, and shall cover this work in the following media: basic media, brochure, local print advertising, web, and social. Any other work by the client is a separate negotiation license. So it limits, it writes it all out perfectly for you.
And out of curiosity, you don't have to give us exact numbers, but ballpark, what are you charging to fly across the country and do a shoot like that, 3-day shoot?
It's 1 day flying, 1 day shoot, 1 day flying.
Okay.
I shoot half my photographer fee for the flight.
Okay.
Because it's essentially a day out of my life.
Right.
So
yeah, I have talked about doing this. I would charge around $500 a day per travel myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that comes about normal to you. But what's the ballpark total of? I mean, it comes out to a few $1,000s.
Yeah, this is just under 5,000 total.
Okay. All right. Not bad at all.
No.
Right.
Yeah. They're going to get, the other thing too is, and this is again, I think very different from real estate photography. I have a style and a way that I show these that is uniquely mine. And they're coming to me not because I'm a photographer, not because I'm the guy up the street, not because, he can fill my bill and shoot this house and get it up next week. They're coming to me for my style and my look. So it's on my list of things I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
When you get into commercial and you start doing assisted living facilities and this and that, there's going to be something like, for me, it was aircraft, where you really go, that's what I want to specialize in. And the more and more you can get a commercial need, the higher and higher you can charge for that.
Right.
Because that's what you are known for. And
there's just going to be things that are important to you. For example, as real estate photographers, we know lids need to be down on the toilets.
Yeah.
As a aircraft photographer, aeronautical photographer, I'm not sure how you'd say it.
Aviation.
Aviation. There we go. You're going to know things that pilots really care about. So maybe throwing a Rolex onto a table, I have no idea because I'm not a specialist, but you are. You would know, this has to be done. That has to be done.
We had a shoot last year, and I had pilot, I had I had a bunch of people in the crew, and the marketing person just was not happy with it. We kept not getting it. And I said, what we need to do is we need to personalize it. And so we were on the tarmac at Salt Lake International, and we called DoorDash and had them deliver sushi. And we put sushi on a plate, and we had the light coming in through, the oval window and all that. And all of a sudden, everybody went, bingo, that's it. And that became the key shot, the central shot of that. And then we were treated to one of the most incredible sunsets we've ever got. And that's, to me, what, again, creating that fantasy. It's, we wanted to make this, you're selling a very high ticket item here.
Right.
And this was for charter. We were shooting it to entice people to rent plane. And so we had to create that special atmosphere. And with that light streaming in and sushi being very elegant and kind of glistening in the sun, it all went and added to the story they were trying to tell. And I think that's part of our job. We've got the experience to know what elements to put into that create that story or enhance that story.
Yeah. And I would say another big difference that I'm kind of articulating now between commercial photography and residential is that you really need a signature style, a signature look. It has a lot more creative responsibility where when people are coming to you in commercial photography, they're coming to you as David Koch. They want that Koch touch that nobody else has. And I would agree with you too that you only get there by making sure you're experimenting and working and sharpening your craft, starting in real estate photography. And once you get to a certain level of expertise, you can enter that realm. A lot of people, first of all, like just getting started in real estate photography, you've got to learn that, you know what, you got to get your life in order so that you can show up to several shoots on time and follow up with the promises that you made them. Do that consistently for a few years, get experienced and get some scars and scrapes, bruises, and learn your ways so that when you're arriving at a shoot like this and you're dealing with people, frankly, who can be very difficult, you've strengthened your patience, you've opened up your mind to possible consideration, and you have a large skill set that you can pull from in lots of different ways so that you can, and personally, I have found that there's a few people locally, but for me, I could make $5,000 or $6,000 in 3 days pretty easily with real estate photography. So putting in the extra effort to do commercial work, I usually price myself pretty high. Like if I'm doing commercial work, I want to be making $4,000 or $5,000 a day. Otherwise, I'll just go shoot real estate and make the money that way. And I can just chill, throw on my Bluetooth headphones, listen to some rock, listen to some rap, listen to some good podcasts, be feeling good, grab a Chipotle burrito, go back to shooting. It's fun. But I also recognize deep within me is photographer. So I imagine as I get older, I will be returning to some of this more crafted, personalized stuff. And a lot of the things you kind of share and teach people are a little bit, it takes a little bit of extra time and effort, but it's all worth it, especially because, as you were saying, you've got to feel good about it. Guys, as you do real estate photography, if you're not careful, you can lose touch with yourself and your soul, your reason why you're doing things. And that's one of those things that contribute to burnout and stuff. So it's really important to keep yourself centered, find your center. And man, it sounds like this is a good way to do it. But what are some of the things you're teaching right now to help people get into this?
Okay, this is a little bit self-serving here, and I'm going to circle back to that. But April 4th, I'm releasing a whole series on starting a real estate photography business from the ground up. And while that may sound like it's good for beginners, it's also, I think, very apropos for all those people starting out, because we don't have people holding our hands and telling us what to do. And I put it together and I put it on YouTube, so it'll be free there, but limited. And that's on my YouTube channel, which is Real Estate Photography with Dave Koch.
Okay. All right.
But I've got extended versions with a PDF involved and all that. And I'm selling it for $39 on the website, starting on the...
Super good.
And
that's a super deal.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. One of the things, I think it's chapter 13 or 14, there's 15 videos, is how to avoid burnout. And so see, now I'm circling around. I got my ad in. Oh, the website, rephoto.net.
Okay, rephoto.net. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, man. And how
do I avoid it?
Yeah, how do you avoid burnout?
I live in Utah. And have you ever looked around Utah?
It's gorgeous.
It is.
Yeah.
And when I start to really feel that I'm being repetitive or something like that, I drive an hour this way and I'm in the Salt Flat, and I'll go out there with a ballerina or something.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah, that'll recur to me. I have nothing like that over here. In fact, I had an employee who actually, when he, in his interview for getting the job, he said, I want to work here for 2 years and then move out of North Carolina so I can move to Colorado and start my own business there. I'm like, oh, well, why? He's like, because it's ugly and boring. And he really wanted to just live life in a more beautiful space. And he did that. And that's actually episode 1 of Real Estate Photography Unlocked, if you want to go check him out, James Stevens. But yeah, dude, I agree with you there. I try to appreciate the beauty as much as I can here, but it is nothing compared to Utah, the Salt Flats, and some of the beauty. I took a vacation to Iceland a few months ago.
Well, I'm jealous.
And that made me like coming back here to North Carolina.
Reinvigorate you?
And it makes me, but it also makes me feel like, oh, I'm living in Mordor. What is this?
You know Dan Milstein?
Sorry?
Do you know Dan Milstein?
No, I'm not familiar with him at all, no.
He came out to visit in December, and we bounced around Moab and went to Arches and stuff like that. And so many of my other real estate photographer friends saw that and went, oh God, I want to do that. Dave, can I come out? So in late April, I have 15 real estate photographers from across the U.S. all converging on Moab. And we're all just going to do tours of Arches and things like that. And let me just circle around back if I could. One of the key things I think for any photographer, real estate, commercial, whatever, is to have a circle of friends like that. And people that you can go to and ask questions about and say, hey, I shot this, it was raining. They want me to come out and shoot the exterior again. What should I charge? I think it's so important that you as a photographer have a circle of friends that you can go to ask questions like that. It's called a mastermind group or something like that. And, find people. It doesn't matter if they're in your area or not, because most of these things are all things that, you're not treading on each other to get answers for. But having the community to help you out and guide you is so important, because what we do is so individual and so solo, and there is no one to teach you. And I think it's really important to have you can go to.
And you really want to make sure that group is qualified as well. You can always join a free Facebook group on, real estate photography, real estate videography.
Yeah.
But always do a little bit of digging as to who's giving the advice, because you want to take advice from people who are living a life that you would want to replicate. So like Dave here, he seems like to have a very nice, very balanced, very successful career. He seems like a guy you'd want to model. There's other people I've seen that have questionable credibility. And a lot of the people too, guys, are very virtue driven in the Facebook groups. Remember, if you're getting a good grade in class, oftentimes you're getting answers that everyone else got wrong. Okay. The majority of people get C's, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe some B's. Very few people get A's. So just because you get a popular answer in the Facebook group doesn't even mean it's correct as well. So this is all to say, yes, find a good group, but make sure, you don't just take advice of anybody online. A great group I would recommend is the business side of real estate photography. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of new people enter real estate photography and real estate videography. A lot of the people inside the business side of real estate photography Facebook group are more veterans, and the advice there I find seems to be a little bit better. Also, I'm the admin of the Facebook group there, and I kind of keep it real. I don't allow harassment or, a bunch of outsourcers to take over. But, all right, well, thank you, man. And I really appreciate you coming on today and just talking a little bit. But we only scratched the surface.
Our list of things I want to.
There's a lot of stuff we could talk about, but let's definitely check out his stuff. I will make sure I include a link in the description down below, wherever you guys are watching this. And I will also say that, I've heard Dave a lot around the industry. He's a name that was immediately recognizable to me. And when I did his research, guys, he's the real deal. So a lot of stuff you can learn from him is very legitimate. And my audience knows I don't throw around endorsements lightly. I actually try to expose people as much as possible if I can. So no harm here. You're a legit guy, man. And I also think while I have built a larger business with employees in a different universe, I would have loved to remain a one-man show even longer than I did. I actually held off on scaling as long as I could, and I held off until I had a kid, because the most important thing to me is being a father, and second, a good businessman and photographer. So I held off on scaling my business as long as I could until it was time to start bringing on employees, so the business was fully run and running, smoothly, well-oiled, just, putting along great, just humming by the time my kid was born. So now I could spend time with them, but also handle all the demand from my clients. But at the end of the day, I am still a thoroughbred photographer, and I actually still shoot on film. Can you believe it? Not real estate photography, but on my own time. All right, man. Thank you so much. And if you guys also want to check out Real Estate Media Hero for manage your scheduling, and also Real Estate Photography Masterclass, if you guys want to learn more about how I do real estate photography, you're welcome to. And I really hope to meet you in person one day, man. You're a cool man. I really enjoy speaking with you.
Come to PMRE.
People keep telling me to do it, and I'm...
You know what? There's no better place to network. I mean, that's how I know all the people. I mean, I've got friends all across the country now that do this. And
yeah, I will have to strongly consider it. I've avoided it so far. But people will have to keep convincing me as to why. But
do a tequila shot, I promise.
I don't drink. You see?
All free tequila shot.
That's so boring. That's such a buzzkill for everyone else drinking. But all right. I appreciate it though. And thank you, man.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm going to go ahead and wish everybody goodbye. Thank you guys for watching.